It all began with a sudden, searing jolt of pain. An old soldier, simply resting, was violently reminded of a world he had already endured. 75-year-old Jack Harrison, a retired Army sergeant decorated for service in Afghanistan, was dozing on a weathered wooden bench in a peaceful community park. His cane leaned against the seat. A small rucksack and a folded, "Get up, old man," Tom barked, his voice both arrogant and dismissive. Jack stirred, confused and weary, his ribs still aching from old injuries. He struggled to sit up, offering no resistance, yet before he could even explain or reach for his cane, a violent electrical shock ripped through his side. His body convulsed, breath stolen by the sudden assault, as Alan Reed sneered, "You deaf or just plain stupid?" Jarred and disoriented, Jack grasped once more for composure, wondering this wasn't physical combat. But the contempt in the guard's eyes cut deeper than any battlefield scar. Jack had survived firefights, ambushes, and the loss of his best friend. He was no stranger to pain. But this callous brutality from a place meant to be safe struck him at his core. As he gazed up, trembling and breathless, he saw neither recognition nor empathy, just a casual cruelty that dismissed his honor. Their dismissive laughter stung far more than the taser's burn. Jack managed to produce his VA identification card, its surface worn, but its purpose clear. "I'm a veteran," he rasped. "I just needed to rest." But instead of compassion or concern, Tom scoffed, "Oh, a hero, are we? Lots of so-called heroes end up on benches." Alan smirked, ignoring the fragile dignity of a man who had served his nation. To the two guards, Jack was nothing more than a nuisance, someone to be moved along. The park bench, meant to be a spot of solace, became the stage for a disgraceful display of disrespect. He wasn't sleeping off a hangover or loitering for trouble. He was resting, healing. Yet their arrogance and ignorance nearly erased decades of honorable service in a moment of violence. Still reeling, Jack gathered his things slowly, each movement a painful reminder of both age and injury. The guards watched him with juvenile impatience, arms crossed, as if daring him to prove he deserved even the air he breathed. That brutal awakening did not silence him. It ignited. He stood there, breath catching in his chest, as the world swirled around him, a lone figure confronting the edge of respect and indifference. Jack Harrison, once a sturdy sergeant who had led men into battle, now found himself at the mercy of disdain. As he stumbled backward, trying to steady himself on the rough planks of the bench, the unfairness of it all pressed down like an unseen weight. Tom Davis, the younger guard with impatience in his voice, stepped forward, fists clenched. "What's the problem, Grandpa? Can't handle a little tough love?" Tom sneered, as if he expected an apology for the blow Jack had already endured. Jack's hip, still aching from years of damage, throbbed with every heartbeat. His back arched painfully as he tried to swallow the burn of humiliation. From the side, Alan Reed chuckled, crossing his arms in mockery. "Yeah, this isn't a charity case, old-timer. You're blocking a bench," he said, eyes glinting with condescension. The insult burned deeper than the taser's shock. Jack had never taken kindness for granted. He'd earned it on hard floors after long days. But now, stripped of title and uniform, he was just another old man in tired clothes taking a moment's rest. He placed a hand on his cane to steady himself, the wooden shaft a familiar sentinel against age and injury. Slowly, he fished out his worn VA identification card from his coat pocket, holding it with shaking fingers. The card bore his name and service number, proof of a lifetime of commitment. He cleared his raspy throat and said, voice low but steady, "I'm a United States veteran, Sergeant Harrison. I just needed a moment to rest." For a brief instant, the mocking stopped. Tom and Alan exchanged looks, glances that flickered between doubt and a shadow of uncertainty. But their apathy ran deeper than respect for a veteran. Tom rolled his eyes and spat. "Veteran or not, you're still in public space. You can't just camp out on park benches." Alan followed. "Yeah, pull yourself together and go." In that moment, Jack closed his eyes. He remembered patrols under a bitter sun, listening for distant gunfire echoing through dusty streets. He recalled the weight of gear and the faces of his squad, some of them now gone. He drew in a long, slow breath and looked at the two guards. "I didn't ask for pity," he said quietly. I asked for a moment of peace. A hush fell over the small gathering of onlookers. Some faces softened, others shifted uncomfortably. Jack straightened just a little, the years bending his posture but not his will. He added with quiet dignity, I served because I believed in this country. I didn't expect medals for resting after giving everything I had. Tom opened his mouth, ready with another retort, but some part of him seemed uncertain. This wasn't the with deliberate slowness. As Jack disappeared into the dappled shade of oak and elm, the guards were left holding the weight. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park's winding path as Jack Harrison leaned heavily on his cane, each step deliberate yet struggling. His ribs still screamed with pain from the taser jolts, and his hip throbbed with a dull ache. Yet pain alone was not the burden he carried. It was the frustration that truth and honor were so easily dismissed. The earlier taunts and dismissals by security guards had cracked something deeper. Today, Jack sought more than rest. He sought redemption. For himself and for around him, a small crowd had gathered. Curiosity had turned into concern. Some faces read guilt, others empathy. Parents lifted their children, urging them to watch. Veterans in ball caps stood quietly, intersecting glances heavy with unspoken understanding. Jack paused, leaning on his cane, and surveyed the faces before him. He cleared his throat, his voice resonating across the hush. I am a retired Army sergeant, Sergeant Harrison, he began, echoing the earlier words but now meant for the crowd, not just the guards. I served this nation for over 30 years, through jungle wars, through deserts, through nights none of you experienced. His eyes traced the path toward the parking area. But none of that matters now, he said, voice cracking with vulnerability, because walked down here today, not as a soldier, but as a man who needed a second of peace. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. The crowd softened. He continued. They took that away. They called me lazy. They dismissed the scars that still ache. They said I looked fine. But fine isn't fine when your body no longer bends the way it used to, when pain is your constant companion. Murmurs rippled through the spectators. Jack turned back toward the security office, its windows watched by the guards who had harshly awakened him. Yet, I am not ashamed. I am not defeated. I simply ask this city, this community, see me, recognize all of us who've given our best and still quietly bear our burdens. The silence deepened. Then, from the crowd, a voice called out, Thank you, Sergeant. Others echoed the sentiment. Some stepped forward, offering steady arms and soft words. One woman brought him fresh water. Another offered a blanket. Jack accepted each gesture with a nod and a gentle thank you. He continued, voice warm now. Service doesn't end when the uniform is folded. It lives on in everyday life. In struggling with behind him, a younger veteran stepped forward, hand outstretched. As he spoke, the security guards emerged from the office. Jack pressed onward, supported by strangers who had become allies. Jack Harrison had endured patience tested. Now his hope would be tested. The events in the park had stirred something deeper, something neither time nor pain could erase. After the quiet solidarity in that crowd, Jack found. As they approached, Jack felt a stirring of both pride and purpose. He knew this moment wasn't just about himself, but about every veteran who walks among society after giving their all. General Boone greeted him with an easy nod. Jack, he said, offering a steady arm, thank you for your courage today. Jack nodded in their destination, City Hall. There, in the council chambers, Boone had arranged a special meeting. Officials, journalists, and community leaders were present, some out of duty, others out of genuine concern. When Jack entered, leaning slightly on Boone, he felt the room shift. He noticed nods of acknowledgement, the silent bow of respect. He cleared his throat, voice firm despite lingering weariness. I am Sergeant Jack Harrison, he began. For over 30 years, I served this nation, not for medals, but because I believed in something greater than myself. Today, I came to rest. A simple act, one ordinary moment. And yet it became a spectacle of prejudice and dismissal. He paused. But in your faces, I saw something stronger. I saw a community willing to grow, to admit wrong, and to make amends. Jack described the pain of invisibility, how invisible wounds, arthritis, PTSD. General Boone stepped forward. The city pledges today to honor Jack nodded. That promise, seated in humility, bloomed into journalists scribbled. Veterans in the audience breathed easier. Jack's heart clenched. When the meeting ended, the chamber echoed with applause. Jack's cane tapped steadily as he, outside, a plaque already awaited in the park, dedicated to. As they departed, Jack placed his cane aside briefly and saluted the city officials, a gesture quiet but profound. At that moment, as Jack descended from the podium, he noticed a small group waiting by the park entrance. Young veterans, community leaders, even a few families with children who had come to pay their respects. Among them stood General Boone, silent but steady, his presence a reminder that true leadership doesn't end with rank. It lives in accountability and compassion. A child approached, handing Jack a single sunflower, and he accepted it with a quiet nod. This wasn't just a speech, it was a turning point. Jack realized that the wounds we carry, visible or not, deserve acknowledgement. And that respect isn't a privilege, but a basic right. Today's pledge to train park staff and city personnel wasn't just policy, it was a promise born from pain and forgiveness. True honor is shown not through grand ceremonies, but in everyday actions. A respectful greeting, a caring glance, a willingness to understand. If this moved you, drop a comment with the word honor and share a moment where someone subscribed. Join us for more real stories that remind us what community, empathy,